Good morning, everybody. We're doing something a little different today. We're going to take a ride across town. I think Phil's going to join us at some point, but going to check out our buddy and future podcast guest, Jason, over at Steele City Brewing, and follow along on a brew day with him, because one of the other things that we all love, well, most of us, but we do, is beer. We're going to go check in with him today, and follow along. All right, we're here. Here's the man.
I'm not the man, he's the man. Actually, Phil's the man.
Phil's coming at some point. This is Jason.
How you guys doing?
Steel City Brewing Company.
Yo, yeah.
So what are we making today?
We are making a session IPA, something that goes good with, instead of drinking Busch lattes, something's a little bit hoppy. Sorry. I forgot you're that type of guy, though.
Yeah. Well, I'll drink your stuff. I love your stuff.
Yeah, absolutely, I know. You give me the grace because you know me and you say it's good.
Yeah.
It's subpar best.
Oh, it's great.
It's subpar.
That's why I'm here.
It's subpar.
We're gonna keep this going.
Yeah, absolutely. So just making a session IPA. I brewed it one time, trying to brew it again to dial it in some more. Something good to take fishing, hang out. You can have a couple of them, feel fine. Somewhere around 5% less, 4.5 maybe. So we'll see.
It's gonna be a good day.
It's gonna be a real good day.
What are we doing now? Just waiting for temperature to come up.
So temps there, get ready to mash in. Got all the grain milled already.
He's got super fancy system. What are we shooting? 158?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. There's all our grain. Anything special about the grain, Bill?
No, it's mostly 2-row, and then there's a little bit of, got some Carafils, a little bit of Crystal 15, just a little bit. Got some Munich and some Victory. So
nice.
Simple grain bill, not too heavy.
Nothing fancy.
Nothing fancy. Some give a little bit of flavor, and hopefully the hops pop in it. I'd rather have a hop forward beer than a malt forward beer, but that's just my own preference.
And this is a brew in a bag system, right?
Definitely a brew in a bag system. Someday I'll upgrade to a 3-vessel system. When you guys meet Ben, he's the big time brewer. He's the real brewer, not like me.
So hops in the mash, he's saying is a new thing.
Ask Scott Janish.
I don't know.
He's the king of hops. So.
When I brewed years ago, we didn't do that. So what are we doing? Just dumping it in?
Yeah. Look at you. He's a pro. He's ready. So that's the new thing. So the alpha acids in the beer help stabilize it just in the mash. You're not looking to pick up any IBUs or anything, but apparently makes it more stable beer from what the studies say. So a lot of people are doing that now. So just a little bit, a little charge, and
yeah, I was gonna say that was what, an ounce?
0.83 ounce.
All right.
So not even an ounce. So
now we wait.
Dude, now we got 60 minutes to.
Which one are we putting in here?
Centennial.
Yeah, from the Centennial. Gotta measure them out. Be specific.
That's right. Not a handful of this and a handful of that.
Yeast starter back there. Rolling. Are Yakima all you use?
It is not. So that's a local hop farm. It's in Ohio. I buy from local farmers too, some stuff, but I get a lot of my stuff from Yakima just because they always hook me up, and you know what I mean?
Right.
So
why not? They're gonna send them to you. You might as well use them. Experiment.
The best hops around. Get them while you can. I put that plug in there, right?
Yeah. Do all the beer design on Beer Smith, homebrewer's best friend.
That's right. Thanks, Ben.
There's Phil. I said, there he is. Essentially, it's like tea. Yeah. right?
Oh, you talking to me? Yeah, it's like tea. You just steep it in there.
Yeah. It's just steeping at 159, 58 for 60.
60 minutes, yep.
Give it the occasional stir.
I'll give it a little stir right here. Ready?
Now I know why you do this. You're skilled.
You like that?
That's why he's got all
It's
those
the
muscles.
technique from stirring.
Yeah.
You gotta be good with your hands. Yeah.
Practice.
You know he's a serious home brewer when he has a pallet of cans.
You soak the grain after so long. There's only so much you can, I guess, extract all the sugar out. You know. So sometimes it takes a little more. Sometimes it could be less. But there's something that's called iodine test where you grab some iodine, and if it stays red, then there's, see, so if it goes black, there's still starch in there. So it's red, so that means everything's extracted out of this grain. Does that make sense? Because there's no starch present.
Sure.
So sometimes, here's the thing. So some people don't check that. That was just a little technique that I used, that I learned.
Who'd you learn it from?
Ben. You know Ben.
Mm-hmm.
He's been mentioned multiple times already today.
Yeah, absolutely.
So you're like Ben's like your dad.
He brought me down the rabbit hole now.
So he's your dad. Cool.
You want to get everything you can out of that grain because if you're doing the whole process, you want to make sure you can get everything out of it. So that's just something, if you pull it straight after 60 minutes, sometimes it might not be fully converted. So you're gonna actually lose some of your potential, I guess, gravity, alcohol, whatever you would get out of the base of the sugar, you know?
Have you ever had the iodine test fail?
Yeah, multiple times.
Okay.
When you
And so
do
what
that,
it does, you just mash it longer. So this is a 60-minute mash. Different beers have different mash methods depending on how much grain and everything in there. Typically 60 minutes is what a majority of the beers are, right? So if that wasn't converted yet, all of it, we could still pull it and continue to boil the next process, but you're not gonna have everything that you could have had from there. Because if that would have turned black, there's still starch in there, I would just give it another extra 10 minutes, just a random number, just to give it some more time to get it out of there, and that would have done another check. So I've had it happen multiple times where it wasn't fully converted yet. It might be even less than 60, but some people, they'll check it 40, 50, however many minutes ahead of time. If it's fully converted, they don't even wait till a whole hour to let it happen because it's already fully converted.
Gotcha.
So at that point, you're just wasting time, you know what I mean?
and that plays into the efficiency
Absolutely.
of your beer.
Yep, definitely.
More efficient, the better.
So you gotta go down the basement. So I have 2 barrels of this Russian Imperial Stout. There's like 50 pounds of grain in this thing. I'm up here on a damn ladder because I used to have an old pulley. It was like I don't know what kind of pulley. It's kind of like it looks like a pulley, but when you pull it, it locks.
Kind of like a come along?
No, it's actually, there was old hooks in there. I hooked it there and there was a pulley, but you would pull it and it would click every time you pulled it.
Okay.
It was just a round pulley. And then to release, you'd actually have to go up there and push a button so it would drop it back down. Dude, I had like 50 pounds of grain in that Russian Imperial Stout I brewed. And dude, it was hot as fuck. And I'm up on this damn ladder and the fucking pulley failed. It splashed back down. Dude, it's all over the fucking sand. All this hot water went on me. I was like, what the fuck? There's shit all over the ground. And I remember standing there. It's like, you're in a fucking murder scene. I'm just like, there's shit everywhere. And so the next thing you know, Danielle comes out the door. She didn't even know what was going on. She came to us and she's like, look, she's like, what the I was like, go back in the house. Hey, Phil.
Don't be an idiot.
I'm sure you had a question you wanted to ask.
No, just
Okay,
so talk me through what you can do as opposed to what your average home brewer can do.
well, the thing is with the lagers, it's hard for a lot of people. So basically there's ales and there's lagers. Ales you ferment warmer. Lagers some people, there's a new way people do lagers that actually ferment them warmer. The traditional way is to crash it down low and you keep it there, 32, 34 degrees for weeks upon time. Different people tell you different amounts of time after it's done fermenting. So this one's at 36 right now. That's not a lager, but I had the capability to drop that down to 32, 34 degrees if I brewed a lager, and I could actually keep it down at that temperature for the whole time. Where a lot of people, homebrewers, you know, they have like a glass carboy and they ferment in there, and so it just sits in their basement, and they can't get it down that low enough to actually lager the beer out. So that's what's nice about the glycol is I set the thing to whatever temperature I want, and it stays there. So, like I said, lagers I could do, ales obviously that's the same thing, I could do that as well, but that's the difference between the two. You need to be able to keep it at that cold temperature for weeks upon time for that beer to lager out. So,
did you know going into brewing that it was going to entail all of this?
No. I thought you had a pot.
Did your wife know?
Oh,
She's not watching, is she?
she will. She'll listen to the podcast after, but
no, it's funny, and I'm sure we'll talk about that in the podcast. But I've always wanted to try it for reasons I never did, and then Ben had to hook up on some equipment, and I just thought it was simple. Like I said, a couple glass carboys and maybe a pot that you brewed it in. I didn't really know the process, and then just like everything else I do, I go way overboard.
I feel you.
I'm lucky I don't do drugs.
I do.
But
yes.
If I'm doing something, I am all in. Everything I do. If I'm gonna brew, I do this. Coach, anything, you're just all in. That's just what you do.
I have that problem too.
So as soon as I started researching after I got that first little batch of equipment, the used stuff, which I didn't even use most of the stuff because I started reading more and more into it, and then Ben had me join some of these forums, and I'm like, well crap, I gotta get all this stuff now. So I sold all the other stuff off, and dude, I'm so far down the rabbit hole now. It's like every day I look, I'm like, oh, I want to get that, and I'm like, oh, what's Danielle gonna think when this shows up on the front porch?
Right. So like, how many thousands of cases and kegs of beer do you need to sell to break even?
I am not discussing that in here right now. But the thing is, honestly, with brewing, you can make good beer with basic equipment. It's a lot easier to make good beer, and it's more consistent when you have better equipment. So, dude, like I said, I'm spending money up front, and it just makes better beer, man. It's like breaking even wise, like this isn't nothing compared to like the next system that I want to get, and then the one after that I want to get when you're talking that much money. But
Well, that's the problem with homebrew equipment is it's always upgrading.
it's always upgrading. That's the thing. It's like I went to that smaller fermenter there first, you know, then I'm like, because I was brewing 5 gallons at a time, so basically I make 7 gallons, and I'd put it in there and you still have some headroom for everything to ferment. Well, then I'm like, shit, I want to make 10 gallons now, which I usually make 12 to 13 gallons. Because you lose some when you're dumping yeast, dumping hops. So to get 2 full corny kegs, which are these that hold 5 gallons of beer, I up the recipe up to do 12 or 13. So I have that variable into all the loss that I'm gonna have. So I end up with full 10 gallons, if that makes sense. So then I started brewing bigger batch, so I wanted that. And now that I brew this, now I want a 1 barrel system so I could do
You always want
a
more.
lot more of these. And then it's so bad, dude. But
So like how this says that your batch size is 13 gallons, are you anticipating losing?
I'll lose 2 to 3 gallons total, so I'll
Just
end up with
throughout
10
the
total.
process.
Yeah, so you'll see when we transfer everything, which we'll get to later, down to the fermenter, there's a whole bunch of shit left in the bottom of the kettle. It's called trub, whatever you want to call it. You have loss there because you don't want to put all that stuff into the kettle. And then, like I said, when everything's done fermenting, even when we do the first dry hop later on, you guys won't be here, it'll be tomorrow or the next day. You have to dump those hops out of the bottom, so you have loss there. Then you dump yeast, and then the last one that you do, you dump the rest of the hops and everything. So you have to put that variable in. Like, yeah, you can brew it and not factor that in, then you're gonna end up with 7 gallons of beer instead of 10. But I just upscale the recipe and give myself enough headroom in the fermenters to actually get 2 full kegs out of it. So,
And that's where Beersmith comes in handy, telling you
Very
what kind of
handy.
system you have,
Oh, dude,
what your
for
potential
sure.
loss is. So you,
it's crazy, man.
because if you get that loss wrong, then what you put in as a maybe 6.5% beer is now 7 or 5 because you've lost along the way or whatever. I don't know how the math works, but
I got a
Beersmith
bunch
will.
of questions I want to ask you. I'll save them for the podcast. But
Okay.
We took the temperature to 168 to mash out, which we forgot to do.
Yeah, okay. Good luck with that.
See a hand or anything? Off to the chicken she goes.
So what you have to do with this system, because that maximizes, so I actually pull water out, because it initially calls for 19 3/4 gallons of water for this. Well, I pulled 12 quarts out per. And so basically put it back in after you mash in, so you get the amount of water your recipe's supposed to have. Because if I kept all that water in there and you put the grain in, it'd be overflowing everywhere.
Okay.
You know what I'm saying? So I maximize capacity. That's just something that I learned with my system. So
Even in a 20-gallon.
yeah, so if because I started with 19.75 gallons of water. This is before you got here.
Gotcha.
So before I put the grain in, I pulled 12 quarts of water out just to give us room so I can get all that grain in there. Because if I would have left that water in there and put the grain in, it just would have overflowed.
Right.
So this extra water,
So you need a bigger one of these, is what you're saying.
yeah, that too, but then I'll probably end up doing, yeah. Bro, don't get me started.
You already did, yeah.
All right, yeah. So we're gonna check the gravity here and see where we're at. So
Are you checking the gravity?
yes, so it's the amount of sugar that is in the water. So it gives you your initial starting point. It's called the original gravity, starting gravity. So you take some of that wort that was in there, you put it on this
Science, bro.
science, bro. Look at that. I can go from failing college math 5 times to making beer. So look through there, up at a light, and tell me what the line is at. It should say like 1.0.
Just below 1.05. So I'd say 1.049.
Okay. So being with that, we're supposed to be at 10:38 to start. If we were to brew this right now, it would still work and it'd be fine. But since the water's not in there it's supposed to be, it's not leaned out enough.
So you're gonna dilute it.
So I'm gonna dilute it. So I'll take this regular water that's already treated with the salts and everything originally.
Water treatment is key.
Water treatments. Some people don't treat their water, but dude, it's a world of difference, man. While it's going out, so it's actually, you'll see the temperature start dropping up there.
This is just water?
Just cold water. Yep. Well, it's gonna be warm now because it's hitting this hot water that I'm cycling through. So watch how fast it'll drop up there.
Yeah,
now.
it's dropping crazy.
Yeah.
So hop additions have happened.
Got the last one coming right now. So take that last cup right there, fill them, okay?
Woo, there's a lot.
Here. Yeah. So I got this is full of sanitizer. Where I sanitize everything this morning.
Okay.
Before you guys got here. So now I'm taking this line because I actually brew upstairs and have to transfer everything down here. So I gotta get this set up.
This is the part of the podcast where his wife was kind of like, what the hell's going on?
Yep.
We haven't gotten in your way today, have we?
Not at all.
Okay.
He wouldn't tell us.
No, he wouldn't.
That's fun as shit, bro.
What's that part?
So I'm gonna put a blow-off tube on here.
Okay. Like a turbo?
Turbo. Yeah, turbo. We're transferring all the work that we made outside down to here. Some people in standard brewing equipment, they'll just take the shit they brew and just dump it right down into like a fermenter, you know? So the closed transfer, going from there down to here, minimize oxygen and outside elements. So you're gonna cleaner work and you have less chance of infection because it's not touching the air or anything like that, you know what I mean? So we'll pump everything down here and then obviously we'll shut that off, we'll oxygenate the wort, and once it gets down to 67 degrees, we'll pitch the yeast. So remember the yeast that was over here earlier spinning when you got here?
Yep.
So I took that out and I put it in here. The reason I do that is, like all that, I usually dump most of that top off. So you see all the yeast, they all fell out of suspension. they're all dormant right now. It's just a layer of shit down there. So that's yeast. We'll dump all this shit off and I'll let it warm up a little bit and I'll swirl it around and I'll wake them back up. Then they'll be ready to go to town on the new sugar water that we're giving them to eat. So the reason that I dumped that off is because basically that wort that you grow the yeast with is just a can. It looks like a can of beer, but it's just wort like we're making outside. I don't know what type of grain they use for it. It's just a starter, so you can use it, whatever. I don't want to mix that with the wort that we made because I don't know, like I said, what type of grains they use to make or anything like that. So I don't want to change the flavor of the beer. So I dump that off, pitch the yeast, and go from there. So it'll drop quick, and then once it gets to about 80, it'll slow up. Usually after that, I'll just transfer once we get to like 75-ish. I'll let the glycol just whip it down at like 6 couple minutes and it just drops it.
So the beer's all in there.
Beer's all in there. Right now it's 71 degrees, so looking for 6 seconds so the glycol kick down, so it's chilling around.
How long will it take to get down?
So,
oxygenating the wort before we add the yeast. Over there. Almost down the temperature. It does work pretty well. Ready to pitch some yeast.
just pitching yeast, doing things.
Time to activate.
You're not allowed to say that word, ass bro. Alright. You ready to do
Help.
this? No, we're good, bro. Time for the yeast to make some beer.
All right, yeast is pitched. Now we wait.
Beer.
I don't want to be that guy, but I gotta go. He's gotta clean up. So
We gotta pick kids up from school.
Yeah.
We got stuff to do. Cheers, y'all.
later.
Thanks for following along.